The Colombian Olympic Team of 2016 by Ian Bond. It is 2016 and the whole world is excited about the Olympics in Brazil, especially the people of Colombia, who are sure they have a strong team this time. Colombia has never had much success at the Olympics before, but the expectations of this small Latin American country are high this time. Although the team consists of 126 athletes, the main hopes for winning a Colombian gold medal are with three particular people who have excelled in the pre-Olympic trials. The person most expected to win a gold medal is policeman Wilson Pegamucho from Armenia, who is competing in the boxing. He says that he has been training a lot recently and he gets a lot of opportunities to practice during a normal day at work as a policeman. Of course, he says this does not mean that he gets a lot of opportunities to punch people, but he does have to run quite a few times every day, and that living at high altitude helps him with his breathing. The next medal hope lies with runner Cristian Gamino, who became the fastest man in Colombia this year with a time of 9.89 seconds in the 100 metres. Christian was an unemployed second-hand cell phone dealer who was discovered by Wilson Pegamucho. Wilson refuses to give details, but states that Christian is very fast, so fast that he can run almost as fast as a police motorbike. Christian also states that Wilson can punch very hard, but he also refuses to give details about how he knows this. The final big possibility for a gold medal comes from Isabella Colonna de la Valle, a weightlifter in the 100 to 120 kilo category. Isabella has been training hard in a cafeteria in her hometown of Tuluá. She consumes 6 empanadas, 10 buñuelos and 2 fried chickens just for breakfast, goes home, sleeps until lunchtime and then goes back to the cafe for lunch, which can mean as many as 6 plates of food. After a siesta, she is driven to the gym by motorbike by her boyfriend, Pipe Delgado, where she watches other people train while she consumes energy drinks and chocolate bars. It's the morning of the flight to Sao Paulo, and John Blondin, the English Colombian team captain, is waiting in Bogota airport for 126 athletes to arrive. The flight is at 11:45 a.m. and when it gets to 9:30 and most of his athletes have not arrived, he begins to worry. They need to check in around 9:45 because they have a lot of equipment, and Air Gringo need to check all the visas and passports before they can be allowed on the flight. John starts to call some of the missing people, but no one answers his calls. He goes onto WhatsApp and Facebook and starts messaging as many people as possible, and soon some messages start to arrive. John Blondin doesn't speak Spanish, so all the athletes have been learning English online with Open English. When he starts reading the messages, his face begins to go red because, firstly, many of the athletes are not coming, and secondly, their English is so bad. John starts to become worried as he reads the first 5 or 6 messages, and then he starts to scream and shout when the next 80 messages arrive. The first messages are confusing because they tell John that they had some inconvenience, and John has no idea what they're trying to say. Then the next people say they have some compromises, and John is getting more confused. But when 25 people tell him that their grandmother died during the night, John begins to realise that his dream of taking a big, strong Colombian team to the Olympics today is dead, just like all those old grandmothers. He looks around at the small team of athletes who have made it to Bogota on time. Just 4 of them. Blondin was contracted to make Colombians proud of their country, to put the Colombian flag on as many TV screens as possible. How could he do that with only 4 competitors? First is Miguel Presley, who is quite a good football player, but with no other players from the team in the airport, Blondin will have to put Miguel into another competition. As he looks at Miguel, he thinks that maybe he could be a weightlifter. He is big and strong, and maybe he can lift a few weights and not embarrass his country too much. No, Blondin thinks about it for a second and realises his mistake. Weightlifters don't wear shirts, and he really needs the Colombian people to see the yellow, red and blue of Colombia. Miguel will lift weights at Brazil 2016, but not as a weightlifter. Miguel's going to be Colombia's hammer and shot putter. This is one problem solved. Next, he looks at Juan de Bianca. And although Juan is a reasonably good swimmer, Blondin thinks he could be Colombia's best answer to the speed of Usain Bolt. So he decides to enter Juan into the 100, 200, 400 and 800 metres races, hoping that if the people see the Colombian shirt 4 times, maybe they won't notice the lack of competitors so much. He looks down at Juan's giant feet and wonders if he has made the right decision. Certainly those feet are perfect for swimming, but he might fall over a lot when he runs. But Blondin has no choice. He wants to see yellow shirts. Standing behind Juan is Andreas Patinado, a tall, skinny boy with long legs. Blondin knows exactly what events Patinado is going to compete in. The high jump, triple jump and long jump. There, 3 events and all of them in the main stadium. That should keep Fox Sports happy, following his shirt around the arena for a few days. Just then, he noticed Andreas trying to step over his bag, catch his foot in the strap and fall flat on his face on the floor. Maybe jumping isn't his thing, says John. Just then, Laura Nipples comes over to John Blondin. Hello, sir. I'm the team's physiotherapist. I just wanted to introduce myself to you. Blondin's heart sank, but he thought fast. Hello, Laura. I have a question for you. If a tiger suddenly walked into the airport and started running towards you, what would you do? Laura looks around and says, well, first I'd run as fast as possible in the opposite direction, and then I'd keep running without looking back and hope the tiger wasn't behind me. Blondin smiled. Now he had his marathon runner for the final event. The opening ceremony was a huge event, and John told reporters that his team all needed their rest and was only permitting a small group to take part, with Miguel holding the Colombian flag, supported by Andreas, Juan and Laura all walking behind. They looked wonderful with their smart yellow blazers with red and blue hats, and each of them waving small Colombian flags. Fox Sports commentators struggled with Google trying to find information on these 4 athletes, and being professionals, they played the game and made as much as they could out of the mystery. Blondin had given his tiny team a few extra events to compete in, just to get that yellow shirt seen a few more times, and Miguel was now in the kayak, archery and sailing competitions. Laura was in the women's tennis and 10,000 metres race. Andreas was entered in as many bike races as Blondin could get him in, and Juan was entered in the javelin and decathlon. The entire team had insisted on only eating their own food of buñuelos, beans, banana and pan de bono, which they found in a small Colombian restaurant in the town centre, and also insisted on drinking their own Colombian coffee from Salento, and not the Brazilian coffee being supplied free of charge all around the athletes' village. On the first day of competition, some of the other athletes started to feel sick. And by midday, the stadiums were empty as thousands of athletes headed for their beds with acute diarrhea and fever. The only athletes who made it to any events were the Colombians, who hadn't had any of the Brazilian coffee, and, under Olympic rules, the events went ahead without the rest of the competitors who were sick. Quite remarkably, having sent the smallest team in the history of Colombia's participation, this team of athletes came home with a total of 26 gold medals, beating Colombia's previous best by 25. Just for the record, Andreas's best jump of 62 centimetres in the high jump was the lowest ever in history. Miguel's shot put of 1 metre 54 was the shortest ever in history. Juan's 100 metres in 17.34 seconds was the slowest ever in history. And Laura's time in the marathon of 15 hours, 27 minutes and 10 seconds is now the Guinness Book of Records world record as being the slowest ever time for a marathon in a top competition. John Blondin was hailed as a hero in Colombia and invited to coach Colombia in 2020. But sadly, he had other things to do that year. Thank you for listening. Bye.